Hey guys, welcome back to the Squashcast. It's June 7th, episode 2. I'm your host Rob, joined once again by Jesse Engelbrecht.
Thanks, Rob. Looking forward to this. Our second podcast pretty much within a week. Just want to mention thanks to everyone who followed us on Facebook and liked us on Twitter. That's the other way around, I think. So followed us on Twitter, liked us on Facebook, watched the YouTube videos, and just for promoting it. So massive thanks to everyone, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode 2 of the podcast.
Yeah, it's a real huge appreciation to everybody who helped get us out there for the first episode, and hopefully we'll do the same for episode 2. This week we're going to start with recent news in the squash world, and there was something we missed from the PSA World Series finals last week, which was the appearance of Diego Maradona at the final, supporting Cameron and Greg in the match.
Well, he's probably hoping to support Miguel Rodriguez, but obviously he wasn't in it. Any idea how and why he was there, Rob?
Not really. I assume he's some sort of friendship with the organisers from Dubai, but you obviously don't know the rivalry between Colombia and Argentina there, Jess. So I'm not sure he's going to be supporting the Colombian too hard.
They looked like they were super friendly in the crowd though, and chatting away. But he could be there coaching a bit of football. But it was great to see someone of his caliber at the game, and a lot of the camera was on him, which was good. Any bit of promotion for the game is good.
Absolutely, yeah. And the rallies he was playing with Miguel on the mock-up court was good to see him getting involved with that. So also this last week we had the PSA Squash Awards. So we had Male Player of the Year, Female Player of the Year, Male Young Player of the Year, and Female Young Player of the Year, as well as both Fan Player of the Year. Who was Male Player of the Year for us, Jess?
Well, no surprise really. Mohamed Al-Shorbagy dominated the squash world. You can't really argue too much with it. Just it's interesting looking at this list in front of us of all the winners. Female Player of the Year, Noor Al-Shibini. What do you make of her, Rob?
She had a fantastic year, the youngest ever world number one, youngest winner of the World Championships as well, beating Laura Mazzaro in the final. It was a great year for her. She's joined by her compatriot Marwan Al-Shorbagy, who won Male Young Player of the Year. He had a great year, moving up right into the top 10. He's a strong figure in that top 10 nowadays.
Yeah, and like having the two brothers in the top 10 is interesting for the game. You have to refer to them by their first names now, not just Shorbagy, because they're close to each other. So it'll be interesting to see how Marwan follows up this year coming ahead.
Yeah, and they both train together at UWE out in Bristol, and they both live together. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any falling out on the court, whether that spills over into training sessions, which we obviously hope not. But the other mention is Nouran Gohar, was the Female Young Player of the Year. She had a great year as well.
Yeah, no, a great year, moving up to the world number 5 position, really starting to stake her claim a little bit, just one position behind Nicole David there, and moved above Camille Serm in the recent June ranking. So exciting to see what year she's going to have ahead. Is she going to crack and get into that top 4 and go above and beyond?
Yeah, it will be great to see that next year. So we also had an award that I didn't know existed, which is Fan Player of the Year, and Male Fan Player of the Year was Ali Farag, a guy who I didn't really know much about before 12 months ago, but his performances in some of the tournaments like the Windy City Open against Greg in that semi-final were pretty astonishing. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think performance-wise, really moving up. But I think the reason he won it was just because of what he's like on the court. He actually applauds good shots. He looks his opponent in the eye and gives them the ball and says, well done. You don't often see him arguing with the ref. He doesn't look for the cheap let, goes through and plays the ball. So I think the wise squash fans saw that and appreciate it. It's great to see someone that young, not getting caught up in the ugly, dark side of the game. So I think that was a big reason why he was the Fans Player of the Year for those reasons.
Yeah, and Women's Fan Player of the Year was also Noor Al-Shibini once again. I think mainly because of her performances towards the end of the year as well.
Yeah, no, I think she's a lot of fans' favorite, and her making the breakthroughs, people kind of want her to do well. And, even though Nicole David has been such a fan favorite for many years, I think Nora's kind of taking that mantelpiece a little bit. So all credit to her, like locking down that world number one position. And it's going to be an interesting year ahead because, Laura Massara is not going to want to let her settle there for too long. And, all the other girls behind are going to fight hard.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting year for the women's next year. We also had Shot of the Year announced, which was Ramya Shaw's astonishing cross-court corkscrew lob, just dead in the back corner. His opponent had no chance of getting that one back.
Yeah, typical Rami, just ball popped out into the middle of the court in the front from a loose drop. Got slightly the wrong side of the ball, almost got himself into an awkward position, but improvisation and to execute that, it was exhibition stuff. But just the angle and then the way the ball dropped and ran parallel along the back wall, his opponent just literally had to stop and applaud it as well, and they both had big smiles on their faces. So yeah, quite a deserved winner in quite an interesting way to think about it. But yeah, no, look, more shots like that, the better.
Yeah, he just has this ability to pull them out of thin air, and really exciting for anybody who knows that kind of shot, and you just don't see it at all on the professional tour. Second place for Shot of the Year was Cameron Pilley against Mohamed El Shabagi. I believe that was Tournament of Champions. Was that stunning cross-court kill at the front. He's less than 2 meters from the front wall and stuns it into the left-hand nick.
Yeah, a bit of a signature shot from Pilley, both on the forehand and the backhand side. Recently ran a camp and we were watching the Shot of the Month contenders for the last few months, and Cameron Pilley featured about 4 times with that same shot pretty much. He's got it in his locker, I think his opponents can see it coming, but he just stands big and tall and just delivers it into the nick. He's got such a steep angle on it from his height, and yeah, it's just fantastic to see. And again, great to see someone like Shabagi applauding it and clapping it. And it's just nice that the game has that now. It has that bit of flair, but then the players are appreciating it at the same time.
Yeah, really good times for shots like that. So moving on, we've got a bit of bad news. The International Olympic Committee has accepted 5 new sports for Tokyo 2020. Unfortunately, squash is not one of them. I think this story's almost been done to death, really. It's a shame. It's not what we want to hear, but something you've really got to just accept.
Yeah, no big surprise if I'm honest. I've tried to keep up to date with the news, and I think most squash fans have. So yes, gutted, but again, not a surprise. I know there's a lot of investigation going on behind closed doors with the WSF, and I know the PSA is not all too happy with the WSF and the way they went about the bid and the money used. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, again, it's negative news, which for our sport we really don't need it at the moment. And we're not going to dwell too much longer on it, because I think a lot of people know what's happening with it. It's been the same news for many years now. And yeah, it'll just be interesting to see where it now goes, what change of tactics need to happen, whether a reshuffle needs to happen at WSF, or if the PSA need to get more strongly involved. So yeah, let's watch the space and we'll report back when and if there's any good news on this topic.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the next chance we've got is either 2024 or 2028. So it's going to be a shame. So you've got something you want to share with us as well?
Yeah, it was just a nice story. I think quite a few people might have seen it. Google, the company Google, have got their own squash court in their offices in Switzerland, and there was not many pictures to see of it, but just great to see that squash is being played in a company like that, and it's popular. But yeah, there wasn't much information. It sounded like it had a really low ceiling because some of the comments were like, "Don't lob on this court," and it looked like they had 2 courts, but one of them was converted into a table tennis area, which is fair enough. And I think it's called the Tin, but like spelt quite strangely with a capital T brackets IN. So yeah, no, just good that got a bit of traction and had a few people talking about it.
Yeah, I love stories like that. Reminds me back to a couple of years ago where we saw those courts in Doha airport. Really interesting. If you're flying through Doha, don't forget your racket, don't forget your shoes. because I can't imagine many people will be expecting that kind of thing in an airport. Finally, I just wondered how many people were aware that you could buy Salming sponsored PSA kit on sportsdirect.com. It was something I found out today, and it's quite good quality kit on a mainstream merchandise website.
Yeah, no, great to see Sports Direct so accessible to everyone. And, Salming are kind of classed as quite a high-end brand these days. So, for them to kind of pair up with sportsdirect.com is brilliant. And, with the PSA logo and branding on there as well, looks absolutely fantastic. Okay, we're going to move on, I suppose, to our main feature of today's podcast, which is having a look at the male top 10 movers and shakers. So Rob and I are going to give our opinions on the current top 10. We're going to go through them from 1 to 10. We're then also going to propose our breakthrough player. So for next season, who's going to break through to that top 10 potentially, as well as our prediction for a future world number 1. So might as well start right at the top. No surprises, we all know Mohamed Al Shorbagy, world number 1 in the June 2016 rankings. Rob, thoughts on Mohamed this coming season?
Absolutely imperious. He didn't lose more than a few games this whole season. A couple of injuries towards the end, he's getting a little bit tired, but in terms of ranking tournaments for the World Series, he only lost 1 tournament. So there were 7 tournaments in total, and Gaultier was the one to win that other one.
Yeah, no, listen, be a hard bet for someone to say he's not going to be world number 1 at this time next year. If he does move down, he's probably only going to move down 1 or 2 positions, and probably only for 1 or 2 months. So, yeah, be a brave man to kind of make a call for Mohamed not to be world number 1 next year. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, if you look at how many ranking points he has, it's almost 5,000 more than second place Greg Gaultier, and it's going to take a significant amount of poor performances for him to lose that number 1 ranking. So I don't see anywhere in the next 12 months him losing that number 1 position. I think he's been so dominant this year. Unless he gets injured at some point, I can't see past him for the next 12 months.
Moving on to current world number 2, Gregory Gaultier. The French general. He's been at world number 1 before. Looking ahead, movers and shakers, is he going to stay? Is he going to go up? Is he going to go down? My gut feeling is in about 12 months, I think he'll probably be down 1 or 2 places from where he is. Quite controversial maybe, but I don't know, there's just that slight inconsistency of performance. The slight red mist comes down, and the younger Egyptians are nipping at his heels. So that would be my prediction for Greg next year, is 1 or 2 positions below where he is now.
I'm gonna disagree with you again there, Jess, because purely based on his most recent performances, I think there's been that cool head that he's managed to keep in a lot of his games, and I think if he can stay calm, stay cool, he's gonna bring that physicality that his game brings across. He can pick up so many different shots that people throw at him, and he's just going to stay in that rally long enough to take them out.
That's where I think he might just get exposed. I think if he relies just a bit too much on the physical side, if it gets deep in the 5th, 5 or 6 or 7 all, I don't know, I think he might be the one to, fade a little bit earlier than the others, but that's my humble opinion.
We shall see. Okay, so number 3 at the moment is possibly my favourite player on the top 10 list at the moment, is Omar Mossad. I can't tell much from his recent performances. He ran up the rankings in the last 6 months only, so we don't have long-term performance results for him in terms of top 10 squash. So my gut feeling is a couple of places down, 6 or 7 in 12 months' time. That's what I'm thinking.
Couldn't disagree with you more, Rob. I'm going to put Omar Mossad as a world number 2 next season. I think he'll be taking Greg's place, if not asking a couple of questions of Mohamed Al Shorbagy. I think he's got a great mix at the moment. He's matured. He doesn't overhit the ball like he used to in the past. He's got a great finesse in his game. Almost little bits of like James Willstrop with the touch and control. But then he's obviously got that hammer of Thor on him as well. So looking forward to seeing him kind of progress to world number 2 next season.
I really hope you're right. I really hope he has great things coming up in the future, because I think he and I share a similar style, a lot of power, not too much finesse, but obviously he's going to stand well above me in terms of squash.
I'm sure Omar will be buzzing when he hears this.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, definitely. Moving down to number 4, Nick Matthew. How old is Nick nowadays?
I believe he's 34, maybe 35. Or he's in that bracket. Could even be 36. I should know this. But look, been there for so long. Such a stalwart of the game. I can't see him going anywhere that fast, up or down. If anything, I don't think he'll get above number 4 again. But I don't think he'll get, say, below 6 or 7 in about 12 months' time. Listen, his body's starting to creak a little bit. He's had a couple of surgeries. So I think a lot of it's dependent on that. But just his mental fortitude, he seems hungrier than ever at the moment. So me, for one, would just love to see Nick there kind of, staking his claim and showing these youngsters how it's done.
Yeah, he's called the Wolf for a reason. So I think he's going to be biting at the heels of the future top 3, as we've predicted. But I can see him winning a few tournaments in the next 12 years, but I think realistically he's going to be aiming top 10 next year in 12 months' time, hopefully qualifying for the World Series finals again. Number 5, Miguel Rodriguez. A lot of people's favourite player up on the scene. Loves his dives, superb speed, astonishing squash. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like a spectacle to watch playing. I think a lot of people have worked him out. I've got a feeling that he might have reached his peak. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm proven wrong, because I would, for one, love to see him kind of progress to 4, 3, and 2 if he could. But I'm just not sure his style of play can take him much further. Look, crowd favorite, everyone loves him, and me, for one, I love watching him and looking at how he moves around the court. But mover and shaker, I think he would stay there for most of the season, and a solid number 5 or 6 in about 12 months' time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That style's gonna get him hurt at some point. He's gonna throw himself to the floor and pull something if he's not careful. It's not to say to rein it in, but it's gonna be difficult for him to improve upon that, as he did 12 months ago. So, number 6, Marwan El-Shorbagy, brother of the world number 1. He's shot into the top 10 in the last 12 months. He's looked pretty much a different guy from when he first burst into the top 20. Different style, I think. He's a lot more consistent in his games, taking out some big names and shot up the rankings.
Yeah, he's quite a pure player comparing to his brother. He does everything pretty well and pretty correct. And he's made that one of his assets in his game. He's strong in most areas. There's no major weaknesses, but there's probably no major strengths at the same time. So quite a interesting combination. Just interestingly looking at it, he's played 17 tournaments, a lot more than any of the top 10. So I think if he can get his average good for 12 or 13 tournaments, he could potentially move up 1 or 2 more places. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see in a year's time, when he's reduced the tournaments down from 17, how that'll affect his average. We'll move on to world number 7, Mathieu Castagnet, the Frenchman, second Frenchman in the top 10. Again, cemented his place in the top 10 quite nicely this season. I, for one, am quite a fan, because I call him like a miniature Nick Matthew. I think he does very similar movement patterns. He plays a very similar style game. He doesn't try go outside of what he's good at. He sets a stall out and pretty much delivers that most times. So I'm looking forward to seeing him progress this season. As regard to mover or shaker, I actually think he'll jump up, 1, 2, even 3 places. Think about maybe Nick Matthew slipping down a bit. I think Matthew and Marwan might go up, and it just depends where Miguel ends up as well. So, I think he's got a great season ahead. Again, he's at a nice age. I think he's about 29, 30. So he's in that mature age where he's going to have a good breakthrough.
Yeah, that maturity is going to help him in the next 12 months. And I really personally think he's going to, as you say, he's going to overtake Nick Matthew in the next 12 months. That's my opinion. I think top 4 could be realistic for Castagnet in 12 months. So we look at number 8, Karim Abdel Gawad. Had a great rivalry this year with Mossad, quite a few quarterfinal games where they played each other. He's an interesting player.
Yeah, like you look at him and you wouldn't kind of class him as a world-class athlete and a number 8 in the world, you know. He looks like he might be carrying a little bit of extra weight, but you know, once he gets moving around the court, there's no doubt of his athleticism. What I like about him, just his racket work is phenomenal. You know, he knows how to put that ball away. He knows where the nick is. He knows how to get that ball tight. You know, and he's got his super strengths. You know, he's got probably a bit more weaknesses than say someone like a Marwan Al-Shabagi. But you know, I think he knows his strengths and he really kind of plays to those strengths. So, in regard to his ranking, I think he's actually going to drop outside of the top 10. If I'm honest, he's got there now, but I'm just not sure of his longevity. It would be good to see if he can, but physically he might have to kind of change and step up a bit. But yeah, me for one, I think I'm gonna push him out of the top 10.
A little bit harsh there, but talking about that skill and his athleticism being maybe not up to par. We're going to talk about that in future podcasts, so we'll come back to that at a later date.
Moving on to the world number 9, Ali Farag. Again, one of these young Egyptians on the factory line that they're producing. I think only recently he's got into the top 10. I could be mistaken there, but you know, he definitely looks like one for the future. You know, we talked about he's the fans player of the year. Just an all-round lovely player. You know, again, like most Egyptians know how to finish a rally off, but he's got this lightness and this mobility around the court, like an effortless type movement, which I like watching. You know, and he never looks harassed, he never looks kind of rushed, he never looks hustled, and that just means when he comes to play the shots, you know, he can pretty much execute them to his wish. I think he will secure his number 9, maybe move up 1 or 2 places in a year's time.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with that. 2 or 3 places is probably realistic for him. I think his most recent performance that I saw was against Al-Shabagi and Al Guna, and he was getting a little frustrated, but it's kind of understandable against somebody of Shabagi's caliber. So we're going to look at number 10 now. Tarak Attack, Tariq Momin, one of Joey's favourite players, lightning quick, great skills. He's been in the top 10 for quite a while now, 2 or 3 years I think, and not really progressed past 8 or 7. So I think I can't see him pushing much higher. I actually think he's probably on the downswing now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I would like to see him do better. I think he's just might miss the boat with the new raft of young Egyptians coming through under him and younger players in general, not just Egyptians. And again, I think he's one of those players where his style of game has been worked out. You know, he literally likes to push up the court so high and take the ball in short at any opportunity, and then follow that up again. Like he takes it in short and cross-court drops and flick volleys, and then he pushes up and kind of not hopes for the best, but you know, there's a bit of randomness in there that I think has been worked out. So, you know, I actually think he'll secure a top 10 position, if not even go up 1 place in a year's time. But I don't think he's going to progress much more, but I also don't think he's going to go out of the top 10.
Yeah, I just want to now make a couple of mentions for people outside of the top 10. And at number 12, we've got Ramy Ashour. And you can't really look past him. He's only played 8 tournaments in the last year, so even if he plays 8 this year, his average will at least stay the same or increase, because I can't see him outside of the real players' top 4 players, because his ability on the court is unparalleled in my opinion.
No, listen, I think if Ramy keeps injury free, he'll be flying up that top 10 and you know, could kind of get right to the top echelons. But you know, body dependent. He's had such a history of it that yeah, a lot of people associate Ramy with injuries. So good luck to him. Hopefully he gets this sorted. And just my mention of someone outside the top 10, the big German tree chopper Simon Rosner, you know, sitting at number 11 at the moment. Again, like his style of play, takes the ball in short, pushes up and looks to volley. I think he'll push back into the top 10 quite comfortably in the next 12 months, if not get like an 8 or 7 position going. So all the best to him, and we'll see how that progresses. Just moving on to our breakthrough player. Rob, who would be your breakthrough player in the next 12 months?
Well, I'm not going to be too controversial here. I'm just going to go with Fares Dessouky. He almost burst onto the scene 12-18 months ago, breaking into the top 20. Currently sits at 15. He's played 12 tournaments in the last 12 months, and he's one of those new Egyptian blood coming through, taking out top players, and it's really exciting squash to see.
Yeah, no, not a bad shout, and I agree. I think he will be a top 10 player. I'm going to go slightly more left field. I'm going to go for the young Peruvian player, Diego Elias. Currently sitting at number 33 in the world, but only 19 years old. Currently coached by his dad, and he's achieved some great things on his way there. He's won the World Junior Championships, Peru's first player ever to do that. He also became the youngest player to reach the Pan Am Games final. So, if he can follow that trend, I can't see him not getting into the top 20 within the next couple of tournaments. And then I think by the end of next season, I think he will actually sneak into the top 10. And yeah, just his style of play, he's kind of got pretty much most things there. He's physically in great shape, racket works solid as anything, his game plan looks pretty sound, and he's just got a good head on his shoulders. For a 19-year-old, he doesn't get carried away when he beats a big player, and he doesn't get depressed if he's losing a match that he shouldn't. So me for one, I'm going to keep a close eye on Diego, and hopefully I see him break into the top 10.
That's going to be really interesting to watch. So the 19-year-old from Peru is Jesse Engelbrecht's breakout player for the next 12 months. So finally, Jess, who do you think is going to be the next world number one? So who's going to take that top spot?
Yeah, look, it could be quite a long time before we have a new world number one. But I think the next person to become world number one, I'm gonna bet on Omar Mossad. I think he's got something in there. I think he's got that hunger, desire, like all of the players do. But I could just see if Muhammad takes his eye off the ball a little bit. Look, you can't look past Greg too much as well. But for me, I'm gonna put my hand up and say Omar Mossad, next world number one.
Wow, interesting. So they are really good friends, Omar and Muhammad. So that's going to be a tough one It's going to be an exciting match to see, even if it is every final. I'm gonna be interested to watch those. But I'm gonna disagree slightly. I'm not going to look too far out of the top two. I'm going to go with Greg. I think, as I said earlier, I think he's going to be a bit calmer, a bit cooler, and he's going to be consistent throughout the tournaments. He's only got to play 5 solid games in a row, take each big tournament and go home with the win, and then he'll come around 12 months' time as world number one.
Right, so how much are you betting?
500. No, £5.
Okay, well, that probably does it for our movers and shakers of this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed our opinions. They are all our own opinions. We haven't been paid by anyone to say anything in particular. Be interesting if any of you agree or disagree. Please feel free to comment on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter. Just good to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any of those social media outlets, we are on them. So don't forget, you can download the podcast through iTunes and SoundCloud. You can also listen to us on YouTube. I want to show one more shout out for a good friend of mine online, Chris Hainbury from Serious Squash. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook. He's got these astonishing skill challenges. Jess, you might have seen them as well.
Yeah, I've only recently kind of seen a few of them, but man, some of them look amazing. The sitting down, facing the back wall, double figure of 8, phenomenal stuff. So no, looking forward to kind of following him a bit more and seeing some of the stuff. And yeah, he's shown a bit of support for our podcast as well. So we thought we'd just give him a bit of a shout out as well.
Absolutely. So share the love, share the podcast, and we will see you in the next couple of weeks. Thanks very much, guys.